This video will be episode 38, starting on day 253 of the Black Lion Origins campaign. Last episode, we broke the siege at Abcomer. High King Cowdog of the Battanians had sieged our fief of Abcomer with a force of 490 soldiers, and we broke that siege with 309 of our own. Though we lost 50 troops and had another 130 that were injured. This still puts us in a pretty good position to take the town of Pencanic. I wanted to take a moment here to say that I feel like I made a mistake when I put focus points into my bow skill. I think they would have been better spent in leadership and tactics. I always meant to put focus points in leadership and tactics, but we have moved at an accelerated pace in our campaign. As you can see, we've got 3 castles to our name, and we've started a kingdom. We only have 230 gold, which a lot of people would say says that we've just rushed our game. But we are mitigating the fact that we aren't making much gold, and we're actually losing gold at this point. By whenever we take a fief, win a siege, or break a siege, we don't just throw away the prisoners. I always take the prisoners in those instances, and because I'm part of an army, I can give those prisoners to one of my clan members and then just enter the siege. So even though he's overloaded with prisoners, not enter the siege, but enter the fief. If I enter the fief, then he will sell those prisoners, even though it's a castle. And those profits will be shown under the party expenses in your accounts review. So it's always worth it to take all of the prisoners at that point. I keep the Battanian Highborn youths, which are the tier 2 versions of the Battanian noble troop of Fiend Champion. I keep them because they are the lowest tier version of the Fiend Champion, which means they will recruit into my warband more quickly than the other tiers, and I don't like to be carrying around very many of them because they do slow you down even if you're in an army like this, but not half so much, and it's nice to have them to supplement your losses with. A little bit of a seizure warning as we set up for the siege of Pencanic. I like to speed it up to 4 times there, and that means that for all of this like recruiting of prisoners or setting up for the battle, before each battle I like to have my my clan party members give me all of their troops, so that all of the troops on the battlefield can benefit from my party leader perks, and they'll benefit from my medicine skill rather than theirs, which is practically non-existent. And that's very important. So it has long been my strategy to, when sieging a fief, to get my archers in a nice spread out formation and then park them in front of the siege ladders, which will draw the enemy to the battlements where my archers can peck the dickens out of them. So what I've done is I spread them out, and once I got out ahead of them, I gave them the follow me command, and then I used the follow me command is F1 F2, by the way, and then I used the F1 F1 command to position them in front of the battlements, but it's always been a nightmare trying to position them because there are all of these broken walls and obstacles in front of the fief that you're trying to siege. So when you do try to direct them, they're always like super cramped up, as you saw when I tried to. But for whatever reason, that didn't take at all, and they got left on the follow me command, which led to a discovery that if you are on follow me rather than trying to direct them to go somewhere, they spread out pretty nicely, as you can see, and that's just what we want. The issue is that if I move around, so do they, and archers in motion while under pressure are dead archers because they aren't applying any pressure themselves. So I'm standing still trying to figure out what I want to do about that, and because my brain is in a panic and a fluster. Eventually, what I'll figure out to do is use the F1, F6 hold your ground command once I have the archers positioned in front of me. But currently I've found that I have some infantry that have come into the map because we've taken some losses, and we got reinforced because we took losses and we had retreated half of our troops. I've taken to retreating my infantry out of the battle because they just die needlessly, in my mind, and I don't like that at all. When I do eventually, when it does dawn on me that I ought to position my archers and then give them the F1, F6 hold your ground command, I fumble it pretty heavily. I have the remainders of my infantry troop selected rather than my archers, and so then I start moving and they get all jumbled up, and I tell them to hold their ground again, and then they hold their ground in this really nasty jumbled up position, which isn't good for me either. So this siege has been a bit of a disaster, which is terrible because we were sieging a force of, I think, at least 500 with our 300, and anybody will tell you those are not the numbers you want to see when sieging. You don't want to be almost outnumbered by 2 times when sieging. Generally, you want the opposite. You want to outnumber the enemy force by 2 times. But anyway, it has been a bit of a disaster, but we learned a lot of good things. So hopefully we can take those into future siege battles and benefit from that. Nice thing about having a bow, whether you're sieging the castle or defending, you'll never run out of arrows. Everybody always talks about, well, yeah, you'll never run out of arrows if you're defending a siege. Well, you don't run out of arrows if you're attacking either, because frankly, you can pick up as many arrows as you want off the ground, because the troops who genuinely can't run out of arrows on the walls will forever be shooting at you. And if they're not, then it's time to storm the walls. The other nice thing about this maneuver when trying to execute the tactic is because my guys are so spread out, they're able to cover both entry points, both ladders. And if you put the ladders up, you'll get guys like that guy that want to come and knock them down, but they can't because your archers are covering them. So not only do the ladders call attention to that area and bring the enemy within view of your archers, but they're going to make whoever's trying to actually push the ladders down prone. So very fantastic, very nice to have those ladders up. Plus, when you are ready to mount the battlements, you'll have 2 sets of ladders for your troops to use to do that. Because we're in such a nasty jumbled up position, not all my guys are able to shoot, and I think we're ready to take the fief. So I like to get up the ladders at least halfway before I give the charge command, have them cover me, and then I can try and cover them from the tops of the battlements. This Nobleman Avalanche that I've crafted isn't the best siege weapon to use, not by a long shot, but you can use it. The overhand strike in cramped quarters, as long as you're outdoors, like if you're fighting shoulder to shoulder with your men and the enemy men, your overhand strike and your thrusts can be pretty effective. A lot of people don't like weapons that have thrusting capability because they'll accidentally thrust when they don't mean to. And if you don't have the polearm skill or the perks selected, then thrusting can do some pretty pitiful damage. But if you have the skill and the perks, you can actually one-shot someone with a thrust attack, and that can come in handy in these cramped rooms when doing siege fights. And it doesn't take that long before you can become pretty competent at attacking from the direction that you mean to. So yeah, we lost a bunch of troops. 34 deaths is pretty substantial. And they're all archers, so... Well, not all of them. There's a cataphract there. And a falxman. But we've taken the core of our kingdom. Pencanic is the jewel. So that's a big deal. When managing fiefs, if you're part of a kingdom, you can generally keep your fiefs... Not generally, you can absolutely keep your fiefs happy just by passing the right policies. And if you're not part of a kingdom, then just pick yourself up a companion that is of the same culture as the fief that you're trying to manage. And that will be enough of a loyalty buff that that you're not likely to lose it. Now, the only fiefs that can rebel and you lose them because they don't have enough loyalty are towns. So, and because my culture matches the Spitanian town, it's going to thrive. It's hard to lose a fief that you match culture with, which is why I would recommend, like, if you are planning to become a vassal, which we didn't do in this campaign, we never became a vassal. But if you are, I recommend going to war with the kingdom whose culture you match and take all the fiefs that you're going to want before you become a vassal, so that you have all the fiefs that you want, and you're not going to end up losing the votes or having them nabbed out from under you by the reigning king of the kingdom that you joined. I really enjoy the game process. The game is fun to play for me as a vassal. I think that's quite enjoyable. I had just recently done that in a few campaigns and really found it quite nice. So we're doing the same tactic where we retreat out our troops, our infantry, and just keep the archers. But we've learned that we can bring our troops to the battlements, to the walls here, by using the follow me command. And I'm just going to stand right here by the gate, so they will be nice and spread out in front of the castle walls. We're sieging Astor Castle. We've changed tact. We now want to have as many of these fiefs as close to Pencanic as possible. So this is kind of a double-edged sword, being as spread out as we are. I'm a little single-minded. I did use my new maneuver in order to get my my troops up near the wall and have them all nicely spread out. The issue is that the enemy has catapults, and this fief, the catapults have an angle on my troops when they're nice and spread out, and that is not real great for me. As you can see, all of my men lying on the ground there. But we are tearing them apart with our archer fire. So the idea was that I was going to try and get on top of these walls as quick as possible and take care of that artillery. But once I get on top of the battlements, I go ahead and give the charge command. I'd have been better served not to, because I didn't think about it. I've got the ladders up on both sides, and that's going to bunch my troops up right at those ladders. And that catapult has an angle on those ladders. And I paid for it. Or more aptly, my men paid for it. But you live and you learn. Or more accurately, your men don't live and you learn. I'd have been much better served to have had my troops all bunched up and right next to the one set of ladders that couldn't be accessed by those catapults. We lost 30 men when we probably should have only lost like 5. Not great. So when doing these holdfast missions, I recommend using troops that you don't like. And if you can, use troops that you don't like that can level up. Like, especially if you're having to, like if you've lost enough health during the actual battle of the siege that you aren't able to participate in this fight, definitely don't use troops that you like, because you're gonna lose some. But use troops that aren't max tier too, because they will be able to level up. Might as well get something out of it. That was a good example of like why it's nice to have a thrusting weapon in these tight condition encounters, because the ceiling was so low, I wasn't able to land any overhead strikes in that position, and was able to kill my enemies with a thrust attack. Also, at the beginning of these holdfast missions, I like to give the F4 command twice, because they are by default on hold fire, but it's not actually on hold fire. They're just holding fire, even though they're actually on open fire. So if you press it twice, then you'll tell them to hold fire and then open fire, and then they'll actually use their ranged weapons, which I like to do, because otherwise you end up with a very jumbled up and cramped fighting situation. So because this was a Battanian fief, we were able to show mercy, because we are a Battanian kingdom, and That's the only thing we're able to do. We're not able to pillage, and because we're not able to pillage, any warband leader in my army who would like to pillage won't get angry at me for not pillaging. And I don't like to pillage because it just seems the dumbest thing in the world to me to destroy a fief that you plan to keep and hold for yourself. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I can't mention it enough. Also, you always want to take prisoners, even if you're just sieged a castle. In any battles that take place right next to one of your fiefs or one of your soon-to-be fiefs, always take all of the prisoners, because you can give those prisoners to your clan party leaders. I always give them to Robber there, and then if you go right into the fief, they will sell those prisoners there at the fief, and you'll see those profits in under your party expenses. Like, your party will actually make you money rather than lose you money. So that's a big deal. Highly recommend it. But yeah, we'd taken so many losses from Pencanic and Abcomer that I had to pick up some new troops on the way to sieging Varen Castle here, in order to even give my 4th clan warband any troops. And of course, I pull all of their troops into my warband before we do the battle, because otherwise you're asking to lose a bunch of troops. So this maneuver is evolving. I'm gonna spread out my men, and rather than waiting for me to get out ahead of them in order to get them moving, I'm gonna give them the F1, F3 command to attack, which will get them in motion immediately, and then I can get out ahead of them on my horse and tell them to follow me and get them positioned right here in front of the fief. I like to just go right to the doors here, and they get a nice spot. Once they're in a good position, give them the F1, F6, and they'll hold their ground. And this works really well. Of course, in order to execute this strategy most optimally, you would want to siege the fief longer and build some siege engines in order to destroy the enemy's catapults before you actually start the encounter. We're utilizing more of a blitzkrieg war strategy at this point, where we are just sieging and taking as many feasts as we can before we attract too much attention. And to that end, we are just starting our sieges as soon as our siege camps are made. We are doing much better in this fight than we were the last siege, but we're still taking a lot of fire from those siege engines. And in order to mitigate that, I'm going to mount the walls as quick as I can, as soon as I've got all of the ladders up, and try and take out those enemies that are operating those catapults, so my guys can stop dying. One of the things I like to do when we get to this point in the battle is to open up the doors, because that'll draw the straggler units to the gates, so that I can kill them and we can finish the siege battle. Well, this poor castle has been fairly spanked, I'd say. It's probably got passed between the Battanians and the Western Empire so much that the Battanians destroyed it. See, this is the way it ought to go. I only lost 4 troops. And when I say that I've lost troops, it's always dead troops, not wounded troops. I don't consider them lost because they'll just heal up. So right here, because we were taking a fief that wasn't Battanian, I had the opportunity to sack it as I took it, but I don't want to sack it because I want to keep it, and it's silly to sack it if you're going to keep it, because you're just going to have to build up those buildings again, and the gain from doing that is so minimal that it basically ought never be done. And but I have a couple of party leaders who are cruel, so they really wanted to sack it, and they could have sacked it if I'd have let them, but I didn't, and that made them pissed off at me. They don't have it decreased their relation value with me, so I went ahead and was merciful anyway, and then I promptly changed the leaders of those war bands to Sassel and the Madman, so that wouldn't happen again if I took another fief that wasn't my culture. I really messed up when I was recruiting clan members too. I had planned to like have a gang alley empire where I have gang alleys, like at least 2 in almost all of the other kingdoms, so that I could build up my roguery. Turns out that's not the way to build your roguery. I've learned that the best way to build up your roguery is to first like right out of the gate, obviously you got to get some focus points, but then once you have your focus points, you sack villages and either take, and when I say sack a village, you just do a hostile action and you force them to either give you goods or give you recruits. If you need troops, take the recruits, but if you don't, do the goods, because you'll get more roguery EXP that way. And then once you've gained a little bit of roguery doing that, and you have a war band that is ranked up enough that you can actually manage it, so long as you've got some scouting skill, like you have to have 75 scouting skill, you can and if you're a battalion, then you've got a bunch of infantry, you should be able to catch caravans. So you attack caravans, and that'll get you some more roguery, and once that starts petering out, or even before that really, but once you're strong enough in your combat skills and confident enough in yourself and your clan members. Okay, this is something worth noting. Like I told my clan members to follow me, and they just stood still, and I was like, what the heck? But because I was in this divot in the wall, they couldn't follow me there, so they didn't come. So yeah, that's something to pay attention to when you're working this strategy, is that if your clan members can't follow you, they won't follow you. So be careful where you go in order to get them positioned the way you want them to. But yeah, so in order to level your roguery, attack caravans, and then once you're strong enough to take gang alleys, go to every town and take a gang alley, and then immediately turn around and abandon it, and then take the next gang alley in that town. Usually there are 3 if that town hasn't had gang alleys taken from it recently, and you gain a crap ton of roguery EXP just in taking a gang alley. And it's not worth the hassle to keep the gang alley. So you really only need one companion that has roguery skill and is not merciful in order to do that. And so, yeah, it was a big mistake that I got a bunch of companions that could lead gang alleys. But you live and you learn. I should have only gotten the one, and and reconciled myself with the fact that I was probably going to want to get rid of or let go of that companion that I used to level my roguery skill with. Like once you get to 150, I believe it is, roguery skill, you can get enough perks that make it so that you can, like, whenever you come across a bandit, a group of bandits rather, excuse me, they will generally automatically want to join your warband. So that is perfect for the next stage of your roguery leveling journey, which is to just run a warband completely comprised of bandits. That's the best way to level your roguery skill. You can get the more bandit troops you can get, the better, and like as they get kills in your encounters, you will gain roguery skill. And it won't show up in the summary of the battle where it shows you usually where you've leveled up your skills. It will show up in the chat dialogue as you're talking to the lords that you've conquered, and it'll show in there how many roguery skills you've made, and obviously it'll show on your character sheet. But yeah, that is the best way to level your roguery, I've found. And I've leveled my roguery to 330 several times. It's a nightmare, and this is the best way I've found to do it. You kind of have to go through stages, but I mean, obviously, if you can fill your warband with bandits from the get-go, that's pretty darn preferable too. But yeah, and the best bandits obviously are the doggone forest bandits, because archers are OP. I'm thinking about doing a playthrough where I don't use archers. Well, I'm not gonna be silly and be like, oh, I'm not gonna have any archers in my warband, because that's a nightmare to try and manage. Your companions will hire who they will, and I don't run mods, so you can't guarantee that they're not going to hire archers. But what I will do is, at the beginning of every battle, command my troops to hold fire. And so archers will be a liability, and I'll want to replace them, but I'm not going to purposefully not hire them or like weed out the archers that my companion warbands hire. But so yeah, we've just taken Thractoria Castle. We have a nice stretch of fiefs here. I think I want to take Druamar there. It just to complete the belt across the map that I've created. It's nice to have all of these castles whose villages will feed into my town of Pencanic, and that will increase the prosperity there. And that's one way to make your towns do very well, is to have a bunch of castles, because those villages are really important. The villagers, you can cursor over a village and it will tell you where they are bound, like which fief they belong to, but also it'll tell you where they're trade bound. So where they're trade bound is where they're going to take their goods. So we just got declared war on by the Northern Empire. I'm not terribly worried about them. They're pretty far away. And I believe they're still at war with the Battanians, so not too fussed about that, frankly. Ooh. Okay, so the Battanians have mustered an army of 851 to siege our castle of Aster here, which we just took. So it's got very few militia, and probably no garrison. I don't drop off troops generally. So we're gonna have to deal with that, but I'm not terribly concerned because we've been beating the heck out of the Battanians for a long time now, and the Northern Empire is at war with them, beating the heck out of them too. So I'm pretty confident that those 850 are fairly scrubbed up troops. Like they're brand new from their villages, and mine are fairly trained up troops. So that makes a big difference, I've found. So we're just gonna do our tried and true strategy of putting my archers in a big long line, preferably like 2 ranks deep, and then I'm gonna put my infantry right behind them on hold fire in shield wall formation, so that when the enemy cavalry tries to run through my archer lines, they will hopefully get hung up on my infantry. And once cavalry gets stopped in the midst of a bunch of foot troops, that's pretty dead cavalry, generally speaking. But they're pretty far away from me. They don't seem terribly interested in... Okay, yeah, they are engaging me. Oh, no, they're not. They're retreating. So I'm going to take the opportunity to harangue them as much as possible while they are in motion, which is my habit. When enemy troops are in motion, where they've been commanded to move, they are so vulnerable. And so pick up your EXP right here. This is the time to do it. So they're not even retaliating. But once they stop, then you gotta start using your noggin. I like to try and stay in the front of the enemy lines when they do stop. Then you're just dealing with the throwing weapons usually, and generally speaking, their ranged attackers aren't going to be on the front line, and you can sneak attacks past the shields of that front line too, and get a bunch of trampling damage in. And as you're abusing their infantry, their cavalry will then go and try and attack your infantry. It really inspires them. And once your infantry have dealt with their cavalry, which they will absolutely do, then it's going to activate the enemy infantry to engage your troops. I know I repeat this all the time, but like, this is how you deal with an army that is being defensive. Of course, until you take a bunch of shots. And you can see, like, even their archers have gone to engage with my troops rather than and left the infantry behind. That's fairly unique. I don't see that very often. Oof, that's a terrible spot to be in. Running into a tree in front of a boatload of archers. Not great. I was lucky to survive that. Thankfully, I was just showing up to the party, and they were pretty focused on my archers. But I can disrupt these archers. I'm gonna move my guys up. I think we're being out-angled or out-ranged, either one or the other, and so I'd rather get something done. Okay, so now the infantry is showing up. I'm going to move my infantry back behind the archers so that my archers have good shots. I'm going to move my archers back too, because I want to create as much an opportunity for them to beat on the enemy infantry as I possibly can. And as I have no health, like generally speaking, I would go and attack that infantry, but because I'm down to basically nothing, I'm just going to try and stay alive and command my troops so that they don't do dumb things and lose me this battle. As you can see from the power bar, we're still, like, we've taken out like 40% of their troops, but we could still lose. We're probably about even on the power scale. And a lot of where we could lose is if these archers hadn't been directed properly. They would hang back and try to use their arrows while my infantry was engaged with the enemy infantry, and that's a big mistake because in these melee encounters, the numbers win. Like, if you're fighting 3 people, you're going to eat shots, and it doesn't matter how much armor you have. Eventually those shots are going to add up and you're going to lose. And you can swing a sword so much faster than you can draw, aim, and shoot a ranged weapon. So I always put my archers in front of my infantry until the enemy infantry closes ranks with them, and then I tell my infantry to attack, and they'll run through my archers' ranks. And I want my infantry to be the front line because they're much less valuable to me. Frankly, I wouldn't have any infantry in my army if I had my way, but I don't have enough troops that I can afford to do that. I just take what I can get at this point. But as my infantry is engaging with the enemy infantry, I will give my archers the hold fire command and have them fight with the infantry. Because a lot of my archers are Fian, of the Fian line, and so they're going to have like fantastic two-handed weapons that they can contribute to that melee, and it's like I frankly, that's why I don't think very much of infantry, is because there are Fians and they are better than any infantry in the game. Yeah. I've probably harped on that before, but I should say that archers are much better than pikemen and much better than a shield wall because they're going to slow down and destroy the enemy cavalry much more efficiently, and they slow down the enemy infantry much more efficiently too, and shred them from range. Like, once you've got the perks for, you should absolutely utilize all of the perks when building your character, like that give the damage to shields or damage to destructible objects perks to your troops, like the captain perks. Get all of those, because those will, in my experience, it seems to me that they apply to your troops' bows as well, and you can just tear apart the enemy infantry's shields, and their shield wall counts for nothing. So we were able to very efficiently deal with that army of 800, and we're in a good position to siege Druamore now. This isn't the best castle. It's pretty far away from my town, and if I was holding to my strategy of taking a few fiefs and holding them in order to level to level 56, this would not be a castle I'd want. It's too far away from the core of my kingdom for me to reliably defend it when we come under attack from several different armies from several different kingdoms. So, but I have changed tact. That is no longer my intention to hold 3 fiefs and level to 56 that way. It'd just take too darn long. Like hundreds of episodes of that, and I don't know that anybody wants to watch it, because it does get pretty repetitive. But I found a better way. So if I found a better way to level to 56, why wouldn't I share that with everybody? You know, it's a single player game. It's not as though if I help you guys out, then that I'm shooting myself in the foot. I used to play World of Warcraft like way back in the day, and there was a thing called twinking, which was to level a character to the max level of a certain battleground bracket, and then you max out that character in enchantments and get them all the best gear. And there was a lot of tricks that I would use. You know, I had supporting characters that would gather goods and create equipment for that character to use. I had an herbalist and a miner, and then another guy that was an alchemist and an engineer. And I would create like free action potions and health potions and speed potions, and my biggest secret, my brother actually tipped me off to it, but my biggest secret to my success was what were they called? Doggone it. It was this engineering item where you could, it was Goblin Sapper Charge, I think is what it was called. And it's this explosive item, and sometimes you use it, it explodes around you and it does damage to everybody around you, and sometimes it does damage to you, but it always does damage to everyone else. And at level 29, which is where I would twink, it could one-shot people. And at the time, like, very few people actually knew about it, and so yeah, it was a secret that I kept for a good long while, and I dominated my server for like a year or two in that Battlegrounds bracket, and it was good fun. But there isn't any point in keeping those secrets. That's why I was rambling on about World of Warcraft. There isn't any points in keeping those secrets that I find in this game. I might as well make a video and share them with you guys so you can enjoy the benefits of knowing all the cool things too. Though I'm sure you've got plenty of your own secrets. I've done several blacksmithing videos, and it's funny, the comments on those videos are always like, yeah, that's a pretty good weapon, but I've got something better. But I'm like, well, a lot of times people will comment and they won't tell you the parts that they used in the item that they crafted, and I'm just sitting here thinking, oh, well, that's great that you found something you like, but make a video. Doggone it, I want to try it out too. I feel like I've tried everything worth trying in blacksmithing, but that's a pretty presumptuous assumption because there's so many variations of weapons that you can create. But everybody's always like, oh yeah, I've got this weapon that has all these insane sets. They don't tell me how to make it. And if I don't know how to make it, how can I verify or discuss how it's actually way better than the weapon I've suggested that they make, or how my weapon actually has its merits, you know? So I don't know. Little shout out to my blacksmithing video commenters, and a request for better commenting. Sorry. So this has been a pretty successful siege. Looks like Drumar Castle will be ours, and that's fantastic. The more feasts we have, the better the next stage of this campaign will go. At some point, I'll go more into like fief management, but for now, I'm just going to. I'd like to talk a little bit about what I'm trying to do when I'm putting my troops back into my companion warbands. I'm trying to give them all
the healthy troops. I want to give them as few of the wounded ones as possible, because they don't have high medicine skill, and they don't have the focus points spent in it that that medicine EXP would actually do them any good. So yeah, I want to have all the wounded troops. So I'm in a pretty good spot here. I would like to get that that castle of Talavel there next to my town of Pencanic, but it's currently being held by the Western Empire, and I'm not at war with them. So I'm gonna bide my time a little bit. Yeah. We are immediately given something to do in the form of a siege attempt at our castle of Veron. Yeah, see right there, there's a bunch of, what are they called? Forest bandits that I could have picked up if I had if I had the perk that guarantees that they will join you. I would have bothered to have picked them up. And frankly, I should have clicked on them anyway, because faced with an army, they're more than likely to go ahead and join us rather than trying to fight. So, en route to Varan Castle, we were declared war on by the Western Empire, which is perfect, because we were just talking about wanting to take their fief of Talavel, which is right next to Pencanic. So they immediately declared war on us and sieged our fief of Garantor. So yeah, hopefully this siege defense against the Battanians will go well. Wink, wink. I'm pretty darn confident that it'll go well. We've been thrashing the Battanians pretty soundly, and we have more troops than they do, I believe. And so once this encounter is finished, I will go and try and route or see what the situation is at my castle of Garantor. That's my oldest fief. I'm super surprised that I was able to hang on to it for a second time. Usually you take a fief and you don't try to defend it, and you know you're at war with one or more other kingdoms. They go and take it pretty quick. But yeah, they haven't bothered, so I've still got it. But because we took some heavy hits, we'll come back and help deal with this cavalry. And once that's taken care of, I'll just play it safe. and we'll deal with the infantry. And by play it safe, I mean I won't go hero charging into the enemy midst and get myself taken out. I have, regrettably, in previous episodes, gotten myself taken out of the equation pretty early on in some battles, and that is no good.
Footmen, fire!
Yeah, so maybe I spoke a little too soon. Couldn't help myself. Yeah, but this is actually, like, you wouldn't think so, but that's usually a pretty safe place to harangue your enemy, is right there at the front lines. And sometimes it may be that that's a little bit to your detriment to do that, because your troops won't shoot you. And to that end, they won't try to shoot if you're in their way. So sometimes it's best to not be in their way. They actually had some really nice troops here. I mean, not in the entire army wasn't nice troops, but it wasn't all peasants and recruits either, so props to them for putting together something worth fighting, even though smoked them pretty efficiently, I'd say. go ahead and give my archers the, like, once you've dealt with the enemy infantry, you're always going to want to put your archers back on open fire so that they can deal with the enemy archers. Yeah, got him. We only lost 4 troops. Pretty nice. Of course, if you don't care, you can always push that double arrow or your E key, and it'll transfer all of the troops to your companion's warband. Sometimes I just can't be bothered to care. Happens to all of us. Always good to check your characters. Generally, I just open up the character sheet menu there and press the E key and shift through my companions and clan members, and just look at the box where it would show if someone's made a level, and if I see a number there rather than 0, then I'll go back and assign them a focus point, because it's really not beneficial for them to not be making skill levels when they could be. So yeah, we should be able to deal with this Western Empire army, I think. I mean, we haven't had any tangles with them yet, so we don't know the integrity of their armies. We don't know whether they're, I mean, this could be 300 Imperial cataphracts. I never bothered to check. It probably ought to, but yeah, it could be 300 elite cataphracts, and we'd be in serious trouble. Though, of all the cavalry, my army would be most efficient at dispatching the Imperial cataphracts, because in order to use their pole arm, they can't use their shield. and my archers just tear them to pieces. If you have cataphracts in your army, they're not terrible units, I don't think. I don't have a whole lot of experience with using them, but I would always put them on the shield wall formation so that they switch to their sword and shield, and that way they won't get ripped up by archers. So I'm going to try and get my troops positioned. They're behaving defensively. I'm going to get my troops positioned and have them face the enemy using the F3, F1 command. That's very important, because I hate trying to draw lines from horseback to tell my troops where to stand. So I just use that F3, F1 command. It is generally treats me right, as you can see. Once my troops get in position, I'll put my infantry in the shield wall formation.
Soldiers, forward!
So we've accomplished quite a lot in this episode. We took the crown jewel of our kingdom, Pencanic, and then we took Aster Castle, that is, and Varen and Threctore, and then Druamore, and we've defended several big siege attempts of our enemies. So we've accomplished quite a bit. We've set ourselves up pretty nicely for the next stage of the campaign, which I'll probably get into what that will entail in the next episode. And like I say, I just want to get that Talavel Castle, and I may want a couple of other fiefs too. I've got my eye on 3 more fiefs, but I don't think we'll be getting them today. We'll have to wait till next time. Yeah, as you can see, the cavalry archers mangle cavalry, and which is kind of hilarious, because I think archers were the end of the mounted knight, but So I guess that's actually kind of apt. Anyway, as the enemy cavalry charges your archers, you'll be pumping them so full of arrows that they can't actually gain any momentum. Ooh, I've gotten distracted, and the enemy infantry lines have crept up on us. So I'm moving my archers back, told my infantry to attack, and then I'll tell my archers to attack too. Tell them to hold fire. Maybe. I don't know. Actually, it seems like they've got such a paltry infantry force that it's hardly worth telling my archers to hold fire. Yeah. We'll take that, Western Empire. And we'll just promptly head over to your fief and try and take your castle. Ha! Doggone it. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but I've seen YouTubers use this strategy to take out entire armies. Where they'll drop down onto that little shelf on the cliff face, and then like all of the cavalry will charge off of that cliff, and we lost a couple of troops to that ourselves. But thankfully I was able to hop off my horse and deal with it. Yay for having a bow. I don't know how I'd have managed. Otherwise, I guess I'd have had to have retreated and auto-resolved the battle. Or just started it over again. That would have done the same for us. Now that we've smushed one of their armies, ooh, but it looks like they're gathering up again. You can see they've taken the Aserai fief of Kiez, and I saw two really big war bands heading that way, so it looks like they're gathering an army down there. But I'm going to try and run and take Talavel really quick. Ooh, and now the Valandians are after us. See, now they're all dogpiling us. And that's how it goes when you get a bunch of fiefs that are not well defended, because they don't have a bunch of garrison, and you're a weak kingdom. They all want a peace. So sorry, seizure warning after the fact. So these doggone landing castles, a lot of them are shaped like this, and they aren't optimal for my strategy of being able to cover both sets of ladders at the same time. So we're just going to try and cover one side. And this is where I actually came to a full realization of the fact that your archers won't follow you if they can't all fit in the location that you've gone. So, because I told them to follow me and I charged into this little cubby, and you can see they just stopped right there. I'm like, why are you guys not coming? Because I wanted them to cover me while I tried to lift those ladders, but they stopped. And they're starting to get chewed up by those catapults, and I'm not happy about it. So I give them the command again, and I'm going, I don't know, try and direct them to stand where I want them to, but I can see now that they've started to move. And I'm like, oh, well, never mind. I won't tell you to stand anywhere. You can just do as I wanted you to do from the beginning. And so, yeah, I've realized that you have to be careful where you're standing when you've got your troops on follow me command. These Valandian crossbowmen can do a lot of damage. That is the merit of a crossbow, is that its base damage is high. But the demerit of the crossbow is that you can't increase that base damage until you've got the 275 perk. And frankly, by that time, it's too late. Like, it's never going to do as much damage as a bow. I've got a campaign where I have, doggone. I've got a campaign where I've got legendary bound crossbow, which is the best, and legendary heavy bolts, which are the best, and they don't stack up. They don't stack up even to a noble longbow, much less a legendary noble longbow with legendary arrows. So yeah, crossbows. The good thing about them is that they're better than bows in like the early game, but in the late game, bows beat them out every time. But I do recommend leveling your crossbow skill because there's some fantastic perks in there. You can get movement speed for your archers, which is huge, and you can get some really good personal perks relating to, like, there's one where it makes it so that your arrow shots get from behind that hit you while your shield is on your back are more likely to stick in your shield and not do damage to you. That's pretty huge. So yeah, crossbow skill, and there's another one that gives your archers health and makes it so that you only have to pay them like half the wages. So paired with a bunch of other perks, your archers, which are the best units in the game, are also the cheapest units in the game. It's really awesome. This this whole siege has gone pretty rough for me. As you can see, I've barely got any health, and because of that, I'm just gonna go ahead and give my guys command to attack, because I need someone to eat some shots for me so that I can actually do something. So this has been a really good episode. We've gained almost all of the fiefs that I even want, and almost entirely set up for the next stage of this campaign. And this series is, believe it or not, very soon going to be drawing to a close. I say believe it or not because we're so far away from reaching our goal of level 56, but you'll see in the next episode how we can very quickly achieve that. It's a pretty goofy castle. It's hard to attack. I've heard it said that it's hard to defend too, but not in the way that we were trying to blitz it. It was pretty ideal for defending a blitzed attack. There, see, you can actually one-shot people with your polearm on foot using thrust attacks. Obviously, you can one-shot them, but using thrust attacks, which are ideal in some crammed quarters. And also, if you're worried about taking arrow shots because you have hardly any health. And this, I think, is where a lot of the issue with these castle designs comes from. Is like once you've cleared the defenses on one side, it takes them a long time to have reinforcements reach that location, and so you can actually kind of take over that side of the fortress by the time they actually show up. Unless you've got a player micromanaging the troops and has enough foresight to know that they're going to need reinforcements, and this castle can end up in a lot of trouble. But that's okay. We didn't take it because it's easily defensible. We took it because it's close to our town, and we want the resources from the villages. They have olives at one of their villages, so that's very good. We're got a low ceiling there. We got to use our thrust attacks in order to get the kill. kind of embarrassing as a YouTuber to make those little mistakes in the battle. But the reason why I wanted an olive producing village was because the more food you have in your town, the more prosperous it is. But it's also beneficial to have a variety of different foods in that town. It will increase the prosperity gains. And the more prosperous a fief is, the more income it generates. And also, the more militia it has, so the more easily defensible it is. Anyway, this has been episode 38 of the Black Lion Origins campaign, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.